We do have Tom Fitton, the one and only president of Judicial Watch, talking to me today about the biggest story of yesterday, which is this IG report on the Clinton email investigation. We went into a ton of detail on the bits and pieces of what we've pulled out of it thus far. It's 500 odd pages. So you guys are going to have to keep it to Breitbart.com, and you can go to the Great Judicial Watch website as well for their analysis and reporting on that as well. So there's a lot of details at the start of the show. Those of you just tuning in, you can listen on demand to that. But Tom, great to have you back on the program. Give us what you think are the key revelations from this IG report thus far.
Well, I think the report generally confirms the Clinton email investigation was half-baked, rushed. It was something that was done in a pro forma basis. They were just going through the motions. The decision was preordained, and it was politicized. And every decision, it looked like the Justice Department and the FBI made kind of came down on the side of deferring to Hillary Clinton, her campaign aides, witnesses, and lawyers. And when you compare and contrast that about what was going on around at the same time, which was the outrageous targeting of the Trump campaign in an aggressive way, you have to conclude that it was a protect Hillary, get Trump FBI. And then on top of all, in confirming all this is the text messages and communications with the top FBI officials, among the top FBI officials, showing they couldn't stand Trump and they were supporting Hillary Clinton. That bias is irredeemably compromised not only the Clinton investigation, but also the related Russia investigation. Someone like Peter Strzok was saying, we're going to stop Donald Trump from being elected. At the same time he's doing the Clinton investigation, he's working with Clinton Fusion GPS vendor, Clinton campaign Fusion GPS vendor, Clinton campaign vendor Fusion GPS to target Trump with spying through that dossier operation. Unbelievable. We all knew the FBI was ruined, but now we know some details about the extent of it.
Yeah, and this is what I think is my takeaway as well, Tom, which is that I don't know if there's anything that was overly surprising, but the extent to which the folks in the FBI were determined to keep the president out of the White House. And in fact, I thought the most shocking quote of them all was one of the new 5 people that have yet to be identified but have been the focus of the investigation, at least the reports that came out yesterday, saying that they're going to do it again in 4 years. They're going to do everything they can to stop President Trump in 4 years. They've announced it, that this is what the deep state FBI intends to do. So that goes beyond bias and towards activism, I think.
Yeah, no, remember, these guys are part of the program and the process that led to the Mueller investigation. Some of them were involved in the Mueller investigation. The Mueller investigation is, as I said, irredeemably compromised. It needs to be shut down because we know why it was set up. These emails and these communications confirm it.
Okay, so here's the one thing, just to be a little bit of a naysayer here, that this does confirm a lot of the stuff we knew. We knew that Comey was sort of a doofus, and I don't do a lot of name calling here on the show. We knew that he was an incompetent guy. We knew the FBI had a lot of agents who hated the president and liked Hillary Clinton and didn't want him to get elected. That's all things that I think a lot of people expected to see. But is there something here that indicates to you that there's going to be subpoenas, there's going to be potentially indictments, heads are going to roll here, and potentially we're going to clean up this deep state that really is undermining American democracy?
Well, now Christopher Wray has anything to do with it. He's the FBI director appointed by President Trump at his press conference yesterday. He said the FBI institutionally is okay, and he just refused to deal with the culture of corruption at the leadership level that this report exposed. These people weren't just FBI agents in the hinterlands that weren't doing anything important. This was the senior leadership of the FBI involved in 2 of the most sensitive investigations in FBI history. Now, whether anything is done with that, Alex, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe, as best I can read it, there are internal HR investigations going on.
Mm-hmm. And this is where, and by the way, Peter Strzok is in the HR wing now, so I'm sure that's very
Oh, yeah, that's what
to have this. Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. But this is essentially, I would like to think when I see a guy like Christopher Wray, and we do have clips, and we have been so packed up today that we haven't got a chance to play much of it. But let's play 1A, Mr. Paul, and then I have a thought on this. I'm going to get Tom, bounce this off Tom. Let's play 1A.
How our recruiting is doing. I look at how our retention is doing. Our recruiting, we get about 12,000 plus people, for example, trying to be special agents every year. Our admission rate, our selection rate, 5%. That's better than the admission rate at Harvard, Yale, Princeton, or Stanford. And it's not a fluke. You know, we just recently hired a whole new crop of honors interns. So the young people coming out of college who have lots of choices about what they want to do with their careers. We had the highest number of applicants we've ever had for our honors intern program. Want to know what that admission rate was? 5%. So I look at things like that. I look at what people think when they know us, and I look at what people think when they express their views through their actions. I look at our attrition rate. Our attrition rate in the agent population in the FBI is 0.8%. So in my view, the views that matter, the opinions that matter are the views of the people who know us through our work. And when I go around the country and around the world and I talk to our partners and I talk to the victims and I talk to the people who know us, our brand's doing just fine there.
Yeah, and I would like to think, and maybe this is me being Pollyannish, but I would like to think that this is him just trying to save face for his department that he's tasked to lead, and he's got to deal with these people internally day in and day out, and he doesn't want to throw his folks under the bus. I'm sure you can relate as the head of an organization. I can as one of the heads of mine, that it would be this is a difficult moment, and no matter if you're identifying real impropriety. But you can't help but think that with this attitude that Christopher Wray has, Tom, that he's not taking this sufficiently seriously. This is a threat to American democracy, and you are not getting that passion from him.
I don't understand what he was saying there. That the FBI doesn't have great agents, and it's not competitive, and doesn't pay well. It's not an exciting job once you get it. And the question is, because the FBI could be trusted to handle significant politically sensitive investigations, and it can't. And so his comments are irrelevant to the confidence of crisis, the confidence crisis. The FBI
Tom, he's talking about attrition rates. Who cares? I mean, we're talking about people who are potentially using their power to try to subvert our American political system, their government power.
Attrition rates in the
he's talking about the attrition rate.
I mean, your listeners who are government employees, they know attrition rates are low in government bureaucracies because you don't leave before you retire because you lose a lot of money. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's easy money. That's why the attrition rate's so high. How about everyone takes a pay cut here? It really is exasperating to hear this, because this is what I think that is relatively new in American life. At least I would like to think it is, where people acting as though these obvious injustices that we're seeing from our American bureaucracy and government are not actually a big deal. It's business as usual, nothing to see here, move along. And I'm stunned by it, that this is just I do feel like sometimes we're through the looking glass in some of these news cycles, and this is not the first one.
Look, you've got evidence that the presidential campaign was trying to be gamed by the senior leadership of the FBI. That's pretty serious. Retention rates, attrition rates, honors and intern programs the FBI don't have anything to do with that. But let's getting back to it, because I want to talk a little bit about James Comey. What's remarkable about this issue is when you look at everything almost James Comey testified about. And I'm exaggerating a little bit. It looks like the IG rejected the credibility of his testimony repeatedly. So Comey comes across terribly. The IG doesn't trust his testimony. It doesn't believe the reasons he gives for the actions he gave are persuasive or even truthful. And it confirms not only that Rod Rosenstein's memo analyzing his handling of the Clinton investigation was correct, But that memo, which President Trump in part relied upon to fire him, is further confirmation that President Trump was right to fire James Comey, and he did the country a service in removing him from the FBI directorship.
So a couple other things I want to bounce off of you. Tom Fitton's with me, the president of Judicial Watch. You know, judicialwatch.org, one of the few groups doing anything worthwhile in Washington, and he does a ton of good over there. And a couple other things. So James Comey conducting FBI business on Gmail, which is Google Mail, which means Google was reading FBI correspondences that James Comey had. I mean, this is quite offensive, I have to say.
It is, and it's problematic, and the IG does call it problematic, does say that, his excuses don't wash, and it's probably a violation of the policy. Let me just say it doesn't have much to do with what Hillary Clinton was doing, in the sense that Hillary Clinton had set up an entire system designed to get around the requirements. She do, generally speaking, her work on a government system to protect classified and sensitive information. Comey, frankly, it looks like he was using emails the way you would expect a government official would, privately, just to, every once in a while it was convenient. It's not appropriate, but it's not what Hillary Clinton was being investigated for. So, Hillary Clinton can laugh and cackle at that, but it's apples and oranges compared to the criminality that she was involved in.
Yeah, I mostly agree, but the issue here is not even that Comey had low integrity; it's that Comey was incompetent. It's just another dumb mistake, and the man makes them routinely. And again, people who listen to the show with regularity know that I don't call a lot of people dumb, but it's so many incompetent moments over and over through his tenure. One other part of the IG report, FBI never designated Hillary Clinton as the subject of the classified email probe. I mean, what possible explanation is this other than political bias?
Well, because it was a kind of an odd investigation. In some ways, it was a counterintelligence investigation as much as somewhat, which makes it, as we've learned with the Trump investigation, the counterintelligence investigation isn't supposed to be a criminal investigation. So they wanted to have their cake and eat it too, pretend to be investigating Clinton email matter while not investigating anyone specifically. It shows you, again, Hillary Clinton was a protected person by the Obama FBI and DOJ. She was the nominee and putative nominee for the Democratic Party, and they just were never going to indict her. I mean, they made the decision back in February, it looks like, at least as early as February of 2016, not to prosecute. And that's a good 4 or 5 months before virtually anyone was interviewed of note by the agency.
Okay, so that's another good one. The FBI covering up the Weiner laptop issue. Do you think that this one is a cover up because it was delayed for a month when they were aware of it before they started looking into it? Comey's explanation is he didn't know that Anthony Weiner was married to Huma Abedin, which is, as I said at the start of the show, my German Shepherd puppy knew that, and I don't even know if she was born yet at the time. Is this another example of James Comey being incompetent, or is this potentially a lie?
I just don't believe much of what James Comey says in matters like this, but presume he didn't know. He's not the only one making the decisions. You've Andrew McCabe, you had the senior, you had Peter Strzok, who was, I guess, more interested in going after Donald Trump, as the report suggests, than Hillary Clinton at that point. Look, what happened here is they found the Weiner laptop material. I think they recognized immediately the significance of it, and it kind of blew out of the water their earlier analysis about the spillage of classified information and criminality, maybe of even Huma Abedin and aides to Hillary Clinton. And so rather than deal with it immediately, they put it off until forced out into the open by threats of leaks. What an ugly mess over there.
Yeah, a total ugly mess. So is there any hope for any reform, any penance, any cleanup that can be done, perhaps something involving subpoenas or arrests even, especially firings? I mean, I have zero hope that anything positive is going to come from this, aside from a news cycle that exposes some of the deep state anti-Trumpers. But is there anything beyond that?
Well, not if Congress continues to do what it does, which is nothing. Not if the DOJ leadership and FBI leadership pretend there are no problems, and not if the Mueller operation is allowed to continue. Because in many ways, this is about the Mueller operation, because the same cast of characters set it up and were involved in its operation. And we now know where the Mueller operation originated, in this unholy mess of the FBI, DOJ, pro-Clinton anti-Trump operation.
Tom Fitton, president of Judicial Watch, you've been super generous with your time. Last thing I have to ask, do you think that this moment, this IG report, represents the moment where we can officially say the Mueller operation is not legitimate and needs to be shut down?
It's an additional moment. There have been much more significant developments in that regard. The exposure of the Clinton DNC dossier, Spygate, Peter Strzok working for them and then being let go, and then Mueller hiding it for 4 months. The raid on Cohen's office, the raid, early dawn raid on Manafort's home. It's a list of horribles for the Mueller operation.
Tom Fitton, please check out Judicial Watch. I got to keep them going strong because they are doing the work that most in Washington are just not willing to do. Go to judicialwatch.org and you can follow Tom Fitton all over the social web. Tom, what's your Twitter handle? I actually do check out your Twitter. I'm not a big Twitter guy, but you're at Tom Fitton. Easy enough.
Yeah,
at Tom Fitton on Twitter.
Yeah. I got in early enough to get my actual name.
Well done. Well done. Yeah, I'm kind of squatting on my own name on Twitter. I don't tweet a lot, but I do have at Alex Marlowe. Thanks, Tom. We'll catch up with you soon. Great stuff, per usual. Yep, this is it. The Mueller probe, and I've always said I'm not a Mueller truther. I thought the president got himself into this mess by firing Comey when he did. I always thought Comey should have been fired within 48 hours of the president taking the oath of office. I thought he fired him at the worst possible moment. It raised a ton of suspicion, and I thought that Mueller was going to find something, and now it's just gone on too long. I never thought he'd find Russian collusion. Absolutely not. Thought he'd find some sort of white collar crime, some sort of light obstruction, something like that, just to make his bones. But then, especially when he was hiring that team of white collar lawyers, but it is nothing, just total airball. And now it's time to go. It's time to go. Time to stop it. 866-95-PATRIOT. Your thoughts when we return on Breitbart.